Is there any sort of disciplinary system within sex, money, and murder? Yes. How did it work? You could be put on a plate. You could be put on 5 Love. So let's start with the plate. What does it mean to be on the plate? Basically, it's like a hit out on you. Who can put somebody on the plate? Someone with status. Can you give us an example of why somebody might be put on the plate? For snitching. Can you give any other examples? For cutting somebody, for stealing, for shooting somebody, killing somebody. Now, as a sex, money, and murder member, what happens if you see somebody who is on the plate? You would act and do something to that person? What do you mean by do something? Kill that person, shoot that person, cut that person? What happens if you see somebody on the plate and don't do that? You become the plate. And what happens if you see somebody on the plate and you do commit an act of violence? Your status rises again. Now, earlier, you also mentioned 5 Love. I believe you testified it was probation. What does it mean to be on probation? Get like the cold shoulder from the gang? Nobody throw the handshake up with you, and you can't come around? Could you give an example of why somebody from sex, money, murder might be put on probation? For not knowing his oath or any codes or something? Mr. Lopez, I would like to turn back to your incarceration in 2011 for that robbery. What happened to that case? It got dismissed. When did you get out of prison? November 2011. Did there come a time when you saw Brown after you got out of prison? Yes. When was that? November 2011. How soon after your release? A few days. Where did you see him? He came to pick me up from my house. Now, had you been in touch with Brown in prison? Yes. Why? Because he was my big homie, and I was staying in contact with him. Now, on the day he picked you up at your house, did he pick you up alone, or were there other people there? Other people was there. Who else was there? OP. Who is OP? Another blazer. Do you know his full name? No. Mr. Lopez, I'm going to show you what has been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 608. Do you recognize the person in that photograph? Yes. Who is that? OP. Is that a fair and accurate description of OP? Yes. We would offer Government Exhibit 608 and Government Exhibit 608A, which is the nameplate, stating OP. No objection. Received. We will now publish those on the board as well. Can you publish it for the jury also, Ms. Corrado? Mr. Lopez, I'd like you to turn back to your night with Mr. Brown and OP. Where did you go? We went to Sin City. What did you do there? What is Sin City? A strip club. What did you do there? We drank some liquor and threw money at strippers. How long were you at Sin City, approximately? Maybe 2 hours. Where did you go after Sin City? We went back to Soundview. When you got back to Soundview, did you have a conversation with Brown? Yes. Who was part of that conversation? Me and Corey Brown. Where was OP? He dropped us off at Soundview. What did you discuss with Brown? I asked him about the cuts on his face. What did you see on his face? He had some scars from like a slashing on his face. Now, before your prison stint in Rikers, had you seen that cut on his face? No. What, if anything, did he say about how he got the cut? He told me he had gotten into a fight with Venom. Venom had cut him. Do you know Venom's full name? Vincent Davis. Did he say why he got into a fight with Vincent Davis? No. What, if anything, did he say about who was at that fight? He told me Killer T was there with him. Who is Killer T? Another blazer. Do you know Killer T's full name? Troy Heath. Mr. Lopez, I'd now like to show you what has been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 604. Do you recognize the person in that photo? Yes. How do you? Who is that? Killer T. Is that a fair and accurate depiction of Killer T? Yes. The government offers Government Exhibit 604 and 604A and B, which are nameplates stating Troy Heath and Killer T. Received. We also offer now Government Exhibit 603A and B, which are nameplates for Vincent Davis, stating Vincent Davis and Venom. Government Exhibit 603 is already in evidence, I believe. Received. We will now publish the faceplates for Killer T and Vincent Davis on the board. Now, Mr. Lopez, was Vincent Davis in a gang? Yes. What gang? Sex, money, murder. What was his status in sex, money, murder? He was the same as a big homie at the time. How do you know that? From other gang members. So going back to your conversation with Corey Brown that night at Soundview, what was his demeanor when he was telling you about the fight with Vincent Davis? He was angry about how Vincent had cut him. What else, if anything, did he say about Davis? He said he wanted to kill him. Did he say anything else? He said that he was a dub and he was a plate. What is a dub? Mean like you no good anymore. What did you understand him to mean when he said he was a plate? Like ordering a hit on him. What tone did Brown use when he said this? He was serious. What, if anything, did Brown say about whether he planned to retaliate against Davis? Can you repeat that question for me? Yes. What, if anything, did Brown say about whether he planned to retaliate against Davis? He said he wanted to do something to him, but he was worried about everybody coming back to him because everybody knew that Vincent had cut him. How did you respond when he said that Vincent Davis was on a plate? Just told him I was riding with him and that I was on his side. What did you mean by riding with him? I got his back. How did he respond when you said that? He just was okay with it. Was it significant to you that your big homie told you Vincent Davis was on a plate? Yes. Why was that significant? It's like him asking me to kill for him. Before this conversation, had you met Vincent Davis? I've seen him around the neighborhood a few times. Had you ever talked to him? Yes. What did you talk to him about? I just said what's up and kept it moving. Did you have any issues with Vincent Davis? No. Before you heard about this fight from Corey Brown, had anybody else told you about it? I heard about it while I was in jail. Who did you hear about it from in jail? Another blazer told me about it. Who was that blazer? D. Jones. Do you know D. Jones's full name? I can't remember. Mr. Lopez, I am now going to show you what has been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 613. Do you recognize the person in that photograph? Yes. Who is that? D. Jones. And is that a fair and accurate depiction of D. Jones? Yes. Your Honor, the government offers 613 and 613A, which is a nameplate for D. Jones. Received. We'll now publish those to the board. Mr. Lopez, what did D. Jones tell you about the fight between Corey Brown and Vincent Davis when you were in prison? He just told me that Venom cut CB. What, if anything, did he say about why CB and Venom were fighting? He said it was like a power struggle between both of them. Did you and D. Jones discuss Vincent Davis's status in Sex, Money, and Murder? D. Jones was under Vincent Davis. What was Vincent Davis's status compared to Corey Brown's? He was saying he was a big homie as well. Now, Mr. Lopez, you testified that during that conversation with Mr. Brown said Mr. Davis was a plate. Had you ever heard Brown put somebody on the plate before? No. Did you ever hear him put anybody on the plate after that? No. During your time in Sex, Money, and Murder, how many people do you know that were on the plate? I heard a few people. Who have you heard that was on the plate? Lead Pipe, Death Row, KO, Pauly. So let me start with Lead Pipe. Do you know why Lead Pipe was on the plate? He snitched on Pistol Pete. What about Death Row? Snitched on Pistol Pete. What about Pauly? He snitched on these dudes from Castle Hill. So after that conversation with Brown in November 2011, did Brown make additional comments to you about Vincent Davis? Sometimes. About how many times? A few times. 3 or 4 times. What sorts of things would Brown say about Vincent Davis? He would just be upset about the scars on his face, and he would just say, I don't want to curse in the courtroom. He would just say, I want to kill that mother effer. Something like that. When did he make those comments? A few times we hang out. Did you and Brown ever discuss Vincent Davis's relationship with D. Jones? Yes. What did you discuss? He told me to tell D. Jones to switch on to him because Venom was dubbed. Did you tell D. Jones that? Yes. How did he respond? He turned under CB. Before the murder, was anybody questioning Brown's reputation in sex money murder? Yes. How do you know that? From other gang members. Did you learn anything from Josnell Rodriguez? Yes. What did you learn from him? He told me that they was the same. They was washed up. Who was washed up? CB. When did Rodriguez tell you that approximately? Around the time I was hanging out in 2012. To be clear, was this before or after the murder of Vincent Davis? Before. Now, after that night with Brown in November 2011, when was the next time you saw Vincent Davis? The night of the murder? When was that approximately? July of 2012. Where did you first go that night? City Island. So, Mr. Lopez, let me back up for 1 second. Before we get to the night of the murder, going back to that conversation with Josnell Rodriguez, what, if anything, did Rodriguez say about why people were saying Brown was washed up? Because he never did anything back after he got cut? Let's go back to the night of the murder. I believe you said you went to City Island. Is that right? Yes. Where on City Island did you go? Seafood City. Who were you with? D.O. Now in 2012, around that time, how often did you see D.O. or Josnell Rodriguez? About every day. Where did you see him? Castle Hill Projects. Why did you see him every day? We were selling crack together. Were you and D.O. close? Yes. Why did you go to Seafood City that night with D.O.? All the Blazers was going over there, so we was going over there to hang out. Approximately what time did you go to Seafood City? Maybe 10, 11. Who did you see there? We seen Vincent Davis. Did you see anybody else? Seen Dollar, like Dollar Bill, Ty Nitty. Did you have a conversation with Vincent Davis at Seafood City? Yes. How did that conversation begin? He walked up to me. What, if anything, did he say when he walked up to you? He said, "What's up?" How did you respond? I said, "What's up," back. What else did you and Vincent Davis discuss? He invited me to a cookout at Torch's house. Who is Torch? Torch is another Blazer. Did he say where the cookout was? At Torch's house. I think it is on Pugsley and Randall. How did you respond to the invitation? I told him I might go. Based on your observations, what was Vincent Davis's demeanor when he was talking to you? I never really spoke to him like that, so I found it like he was plotting something. What do you mean by plotting? Like as if he was up to something. Why do you think he might be up to something? Because I knew he knew I was under CB, and I know there was a big beef between the two of them at the time. Was anyone else present for that conversation? Josnell. Was anybody with Vincent Davis? Yes. Who was with Vincent Davis? I ain't recognize him. Did you talk to Josnell Rodriguez after your conversation with Vincent Davis? Yes. What did you and Rodriguez discuss? He told me to be careful for him and whoever he was with because they looked like they was moving funny. After the conversation with Vincent Davis, did you talk to anybody else at that party? Yes. Who did you talk to? Ty Nitty. Who is Ty Nitty? He's another blazer from the neighborhood. What did you and Ty Nitty discuss? I told him that. I said, you all see Venom and you ain't gonna do nothing. And I said that to him on my way out. How did Ty Nitty respond? I can't remember. Why did you say that to Ty Nitty? Because he was one of the homies. Was Dio present when you said that to Ty Nitty? Yes. What did you do after the conversation with Ty Nitty? We left City Island. Approximately what time did you leave? I can't remember. How did you leave City Island? I drove. Where did you go? I dropped Dio off at the cookout that everybody was going to at Torch's house. Why did you take him there? He wanted to go there. Did you and Dio have any conversations on your way to the cookout? I remember him telling me, don't waste your time talking to Nitty. You know they are washed up. They're not going to do nothing. What did you understand that to mean? That he wasn't about nothing? They wasn't going to do anything? What do you mean by do anything? They wasn't going to act when they seen Venom. What happened when you got to the cookout? I dropped Dio off and told him I would be right back. What did you do after you dropped Dio off? I called Corey Brown. Why did you call Corey Brown? To let him know I just seen Vincent Davis. What did you say to Corey Brown when you called him? I told him I had just seen Vincent, that he is over there at the cookout, and if he still wants me to take care of that. How did he respond? He told me, yeah, go ahead. What did you understand that to mean? Like authorization to move on with the hit? Sorry, can you repeat that? Authorization to go on with the hit. What do you mean by the hit? To kill Venom. If he hadn't said go ahead, would you have killed Venom that night? No. Why not? I had no problem with him. How long was your conversation with Corey Brown that night? About a minute. What did you do after that conversation? I went and got a gun. Where did you go first? Castle Hill. Why Castle Hill? I had a gun up there. Did you see anybody when you got to Castle Hill? Yes. Who did you see? I seen JC. Who is JC? Another blazer from the neighborhood. Do you know his full name? Jeremy Cruz. Mr. Lopez, I'm going to show you what has been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 606. Do you recognize the person in that photograph? Yes. Who is that? Jeremy Cruz. Is that a fair and accurate depiction of Jeremy Cruz? Yes. The government offers Government Exhibit 606 as well as 606A and 606B, which are nameplates. No objection. Received. We'll publish those to the board now. Mr. Lopez, when you saw JC, did you talk to him? Yes. What did you talk to him about? I told him that I was looking for the gun. How did he respond? He told me he couldn't get to it right now. Was this a specific gun you were looking for? Yes. What gun was that? .357. Whose gun was it? Me, Dio, JC, and Brabs. We'll turn back to that shared gun a little later. What did you do after you couldn't get that gun? I went and got another gun. Where did you go? Eric Rivera. Who is Eric Rivera? A friend of my family's. Are you close to Eric Rivera? Yes. Where does he live? He lives in Colgate in the Soundview area. Did you go to his residence? Yes. What happened when you got there? I told him I got into something and I need a gun. How did he respond? He went and got the gun for me. What kind of gun was it? A .40 caliber handgun. Do you know the brand? It was a Sig Sauer, something like that. Who chose the gun? He did. How long were you at Rivera's residence? About 5 to 10 minutes. What did you do after that? I drove back to the cookout. Mr. Lopez, I am now going to show you what has been marked as Government Exhibit 1102. Do you recognize the area depicted in this map? Yes. Where is that area generally? This is where the murder took place. Is this a fair and accurate representation of that area? Yes. The government offers Government Exhibit 1102, Your Honor. No objection. Received. Ms. Corrado, can you publish that for the jury? Mr. Lopez, looking at this map, can you describe where the cookout was? It was one of these first houses right here on Pugsley. These first two houses right here. One of these houses. What is the nearest cross street to the house? Randall. When you got to the cookout, where did you park your car? Right in front of the house on the side where the grass is at. Which street did you park your car on? On Pugsley. What did you do when you got there? I called D.O. Why did you call D.O.? So he could meet me in front of the house. What was the first thing you said to D.O. when you saw him? I told him that I went and got the gun and I was going to kill Venom. How did he respond? He was just like, all right. What did you say after that? I told him that I went and got the gun and I was about to shoot Venom. Did you know where Venom was? No. Did you find out? Yes. How did you find out? D.O. told me he was inside. He was about to come outside. When did he tell you that? While I was in front of the house. Did he tell you that before or after you told him that you were going to kill Venom? After. Now, if D.O. hadn't told you where Venom was, would you have committed the murder? No. Why not? I would have never knew where he was at. What did you do after you had this conversation with D.O.? I was waiting for him to come outside, and D.O. asked to move my car, and I told him no, and we both jumped in the car, and I parked on this next corner right here. I think it says Caesar Place. Let me stop you right there. First, did D.O. say why he wanted to move the car? So nobody see us in front? I believe you testified you moved the car? Yes. Why did you move the car? Because I knew D.O. really couldn't drive like that at the time. Was he in the car when you moved it? Yes. Going back to the map, could you indicate where you moved the car to after you moved it? I moved it from Pugsley, and I parked it right here on this corner, the next cross street. I think it says Caesar Place. Whose idea was it to move it there? It was my idea. What happened after you moved the car? I got out and I walked toward the front of the party. Where was D.O. when you got out? He was in the car. Why did he stay in the car? He was just waiting for me. What part of the car was he in? Passenger seat. Was the car running when you left the car? Yes. Why did you leave the car running? So when I get back in the car, I could just drive off. What did you do after you got out of the car? When I got out of the car, I walked toward the front of the house. What happened when you got towards the front of the house? I seen Vincent Davis. What did you do when you saw him? I shot him. How many times? About 7, 8 times. How far away from him were you when you shot him? I was standing by these cars on the side of the houses, and he was standing by the cars on the side with the grass there. Just for the record, may the record reflect that the witness has indicated that he was standing on one side of Pugsley Avenue and that the victim was standing on the other side of Pugsley Avenue. Yes. Thank you, Your Honor. Did you see what happened to Vincent Davis after you shot him? I seen him fall to the ground, and I ran back to my car. What, if anything, did you say to D.O. when you got into the car? I told him I had just shot him, and I passed him the gun and drove off. How did he respond? He was just like, "Word? What happened?" I just told him, and he fell, and that's it. Where did you go after you got in the car? I went to D.O.'s house. How did you decide where to go? I was going to go to my house, my sister's house, and he told me, like, "No, come over to my house." Why were you going to go to your sister's house? It was closer. Where did your sister live at the time? On Watson. When did you decide to go to your sister's house that night? Right after. Right after what? The murder. What did D.O. say about going to his house? He said, "No, go to my house." So we went and drove to his house. Where was his house? I remember he lived on Park Avenue. How did you get to Park Avenue? I drove there. About how long did it take? About 10, 15 minutes. Did you discuss anything on the way to his house? He told me he was going to drop the gun off, and then we were going to go to Harlem. Did he say why he wanted to go to Harlem? There was another cookout in Harlem that we was going to go to. How did you know how to get to D.O.'s house? He showed me how to get there. When did he show you? I've been there before. What happened when you got to his house? He went to go put the gun upstairs for me. What did you do when he did that? I waited downstairs. Did he say why he was going to take the gun upstairs? He was going to go wipe it off. How long was D.O. in the apartment? About 5 minutes. 5, 10 minutes. What happened when he came out? He had his hand wrapped in the t-shirt. Did you have the gun? No. What, if anything, did he say when he came out? He was wiping the gun down, and the gun went off and shot him in the hand. What did you do after that? I dropped him off at the hospital. What happened? St. Barnabas Hospital. Why St. Barnabas? It was close by. Close to what? His house. Whose idea was it to go to St. Barnabas? His idea. Where did you drop him off at St. Barnabas? In front of the emergency room. Where did you go after you dropped him off? I went to my sister's house. Why did you go to your sister's house? I had lost my phone during that whole thing, and I told the boyfriend to drive me back to the scene to see if I dropped my phone over there. When did you realize you dropped your phone? When I got back in the car after the shooting. Did you do anything to look for the phone when you were in the car? I had D.O. call it for me. After you lost the phone, did you keep the same number or get a new number? I got a new one. Mr. Lopez, I believe you testified that D.O.'s house was on Park Avenue. Do you know the cross street? I can't remember. I believe you said earlier that he offered to move the car before the shooting. Yes. Did he say anything about the car? He just asked to move it so nobody could see us in front of the house, and that is what I can remember. Mr. Lopez, going back to that phone that you had the night of the murder, was that phone account in your name or somebody else's name? Somebody else's name. Whose account was the phone in? My grandmother. What is your grandmother's name? Miriam Rodriguez. Mr. Lopez, I am now going to show you what has been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 505A. Do you recognize this document? It is kind of small. I can't read it. Ms. Corrado, can you zoom in for the witness? Thank you. Mr. Lopez, do you recognize this document? Yes. What is this document generally? My phone records. Your Honor, we would offer this document, now subject to connection later. 505A is received. Ms. Corrado, can you publish the exhibit? Thank you. Can you zoom in to the top of the document, Ms. Corrado? Mr. Lopez, can you read the customer name listed there? I can't see it. Miriam Rodriguez. Ms. Corrado, if you could zoom out of that, and if you could zoom in to the area that says Call Details. Mr. Lopez, Looking at this part now, what is the number listed under call details? That was my phone number at the time. Now looking at the other numbers on this document, do you recognize any phone numbers on this document sitting here today? Yes. What numbers do you recognize? I remember Eric Rivera's number. Which one of these numbers is Eric Rivera's number? Aside from Eric Rivera's number and your number, do you recognize any other numbers on this document? I remember the 347-797 number because everybody in my family plan, we started off with 797. To be clear for the record, what are the last four numbers of that number? 7205. Mr. Lopez, aside from those numbers, do you recognize any other numbers on the document? No. When did you first see this document? A few months ago. Now, Mr. Lopez, I would like to now talk about the day after the shooting. What did you do that day? I went to Castle Hill. Did you see anybody at Castle Hill? Yes. Who did you see? I seen Brabs. Who is Brabs? Another blazer from the neighborhood, Christopher Canada. Do you know his full name? Christopher Canada. Mr. Lopez, I'm going to show you what has been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 605. Do you recognize the person in that photograph? Yes. Who is that? Brabs. Is that a fair and accurate representation of Brabs? Yes. The government offers 605 and 605A and 605B, which are nameplates. No objection. Received. Thank you. We'll now publish those to the board. Choose a good time to break in the next 5 to 10 minutes. I think just a couple more questions here, and then will be a good time. Mr. Lopez, when you saw Brabs in Castle Hill, did you have a conversation with him? Yes. What did you discuss? I told him about the shooting. How did he respond? He just was shocked. What did you do after that? Went to his house. What did you do at his house? Watched the news. What did you do after you watched the news? Went to go see Dio in the hospital. Did you talk to Dio in the hospital? Yes. What did you discuss? I asked him if the bullet was still in his hand. He said no, it went through. He told me the police came to question him. What, if anything, did he say about that questioning by the police? He told him that he got shot somewhere else. Your Honor, now might be a good time to take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, let Ms. Rojas know when you are ready to resume.